Hey guys, welcome back. Today we're going to talk about asphalt, specifically the construction process needed to install asphalt parking lots and roads. So when we look at asphalt, asphalt is considered a flexible pavement, meaning that it will expand, contract, and even bend with whatever material is beneath it. If we compare this to concrete, concrete is considered a rigid pavement. And it's even considered a rigid material, meaning that if you apply too much pressure, it'll simply snap. Um, Asphalt is very, really similar to a Rice Krispie treat. If you bend it back and forth, it won't just snap. If you bend it enough times, it eventually will. Versus concrete is comparable to chocolate, where if you just apply enough pressure, it'll simply snap in half. You can probably tell that I'm a little bit hungry. I apologize for my food references, but that's really what it's like, and that's what I think of every time I see asphalt as a Rice Krispie treat. There are benefits to installing asphalt versus concrete, um, and really what they are is that it's easier, faster, and cheaper to install, and also to remove. And so if you need a temporary road installed, if you're in a remote location, if you have adverse weather and you just need to get something put down quickly, asphalt's a really good option. Also, if you're just on super, super long stretches of roads, you'll notice a lot of long highways are usually asphalt within the United States. It's because they're just really fast to put down, and so it's extremely beneficial. It's also really easy to maintain. So asphalt has a mix that's actually very similar to concrete. There's really there's a few differences, but there's one main difference. And so when we look at asphalt, you'll notice a typical mix design will include aggregates, which is just normal rock, and it's shifted and separated by size, and that'll range usually from 1/4 of an inch in diameter to 3/4 of an inch in diameter. Sometimes asphalt will include sand, and that kind of helps just put the aggregates together better. It helps keep everything consistent, and you don't want a lot of gaps between your aggregates and your asphalt mix. And then the last thing you'll see is an oil byproduct, which is called bitumen. In mixed designs, it's called a binder. And there's different types, there's different specifications, but all it really does is it holds everything together. And so to use another food reference, um, if I'm baking a cake, I'm going to mix flour and water and milk and maybe a few other things. But really, it's the egg that kind of holds everything together. And so we can look at oil in that sense. Um, this is similar to concrete because concrete uses a cement or a fly ash or other materials that'll, when they get wet, they hold everything together. That's much more of a chemical reaction versus oil, which is still a chemical reaction, but it's a different type of reaction. It's not a curing process. Um, just a side note, you'll see the word bitumen or bituminous. If you don't know how to pronounce that, please don't feel bad. I promise you, nobody knows how to pronounce it. And you'll notice people just kind of mumble through it, and that's perfectly okay. Even people that I know that have worked in the asphalt industry for a long time. But if you see that funny word, bituminous, all it means is oil-based, and it could be asphalt, it could be other materials as well. Another side note, if you're reading through a set of plans or specifications, you'll see the acronym HMA. All that means is hot mix asphalt. And so if you get a set of plans, if you see a design that says HMA, don't get thrown off. All it means is just asphalt. I should mention there is such a thing as cold mix asphalt. It's never ever used to pave roads. That would be pretty disastrous. Um, Cold mix asphalt is really meant for just kind of small patches. It's really seen as a temporary structure. You would almost never see that on a highway. Um, I used to install cold mix patches in like parking lots for retail stores, maybe some small residential roads, but nothing bigger than that. And so any large patch, large road, you're going to use HMA. So when you see the top of asphalt, and people call it blacktop sometimes but when you see the top of asphalt, usually there is a engineered fill beneath the asphalt called road base. So we talked about how the asphalt usually has to be engineered, depending on the jurisdiction that you're in. If it's a highway, if it's a state road, if it's a city road, usually it has to be engineered. If it's a privately owned area, if it's a temporary type of asphalt, you generally have a little bit more leeway. Before paving asphalt without engineering, though, if I were you, I would check your city's requirements and make sure that just check and make sure that you don't have to have engineering before placing asphalt uh, without an engineer's approval. But typically asphalt will have a road base beneath it, which is kind of like a foundation for asphalt to stand on. And so before you put asphalt down, you'll clear the area. You'll actually potentially excavate and grade it so that it's level. You'll compact that area with a heavy machine called a compactor, super creative name. And then you're going to put road base down. Road base it looks like dirt. It's actually engineered, and it's got sands and silts and other soils that are specifically put together to help the asphalt perform well. And so it has soil absorption properties. It has flex and shifting properties. And you want to really compact it to what the engineer specifies so that there's no potholing. Usually if there are potholes in your asphalt, either the asphalt is really old or there was a design issue or the road base was installed improperly rather than the asphalt. And in some cases, you'll actually have to install a base beneath your road base called subbase. And so you'll notice on my little diagram here, the road base is about twice as thick as the asphalt. That's kind of the rule of thumb. It's usually about twice as thick. And then the subbase is, again, kind of twice as thick as the road base. In this case, it's only 4 inches more, not exactly twice as much. But subbase really is kind of a foundation for the road base to stand on. And so if you're in an area where the underlying soils are just super collapsible, maybe there's high plasticity, high elasticity in other areas, maybe there's a lot of water that you're dealing with, you'll probably see some sort of subbase to protect your asphalt from getting potholes, from getting cracks, things like that. What's interesting to note is that when asphalt does fail, it's usually conditioned from underneath instead of on top. And so where I live on the west coast of the United States, you'll see asphalt where water will come in underneath and it sits there for months and months, and then it gets really, really hot outside because the heat of summer, and that water converts into steam, and it'll make its way through the asphalt, and that generates cracks. Or on the flip side, it might be winter. You have water sitting in underneath that asphalt, and then that water freezes. Water, when it freezes, it actually expands, which expands the asphalt and therefore creates cracking. And so the more you can do a good job of preparing your subbase, preparing your road base, and correctly installing your asphalt, the less cracking you're going to see in the future. So really quickly, I wanted to go over the process of what it takes to pave a road or pave a parking lot. So your first step is it's actually going to be your excavation and grading. And typically, hopefully you'll have drawings that tell you what the grade needs to be, what your elevations need to look like, and you're going to try to grade to that. And then once you're ready to go, you might compact that area as well. Then you're going to install your subbase if it's required. You might install it in multiple lifts. And so if you are installing subbase in 4-inch lifts, if we go back to that 10-inch example, it's going to be 4 inches. You're going to compact it, and then 4 more inches, and then compact it, and then 2 inches, and then compact it again. And then you'll install your road base, and it's going to follow a similar process of installing it in lifts when required and compaction when required. And then you're going to install your asphalt. Asphalt is going to come in usually some sort of dump truck. There's multiple kinds. The important thing to remember is that asphalt comes in trucks that are measured in tons. And so a single truck it usually holds about 17 tons. It could hold more. If your truck has arms on it, that usually means that it holds 21 tons. And then you could have trucks with extra trailers. Those are called truck and pups or doubles and then triples. And and that's going to hold anywhere from 17 to 21 tons of asphalt. So when we talk about compaction, there's a lot to cover with compaction, but the basics are you're going to install um, items in lifts, you're going to compact them, you're going to put your asphalt down, and actually when you place the asphalt, when it comes out of the screed, out of the asphalt paving machine, it's actually a little bit thicker than what the requirement is, and that's because after the screed installs the asphalt, a compactor is going to follow and compact it down to the required thickness. And the reason it does that is so that the asphalt um, is a lot more firm and a lot more strong and a lot more waterproof than just if the asphalt paver put it down. It also helps with smoothness. Another benefit is that asphalt roads especially will have to be installed with a seam down the middle. And so you can see my poorly drawn sketch here on the screen where we have a 4-inch thick asphalt road. This is super dramatized. It won't be that pronounced, but you're gonna compact on one side first and then on another side, and you're gonna leave a nice crown or a nice seam in the middle. And the reason we do that is so that water can flow to a storm drain system when it rains or when the asphalt gets wet. So some of the final considerations to look at when we talk about asphalt. Um, Most temperate states within the U.S. and maybe other states as well will have some sort of season for asphalt. And so especially if it's a state-run or a city-run project, they'll be very strict about when you can place asphalt and when you cannot. Most batch plants will generally have a similar schedule. If you are a private owner and you really need asphalt, they may fire up the batch plant just for you. It might cost a little bit more, and they also might have you sign a waiver, um, essentially protecting them because it's going to be really, really cold outside or really, really wet outside, or maybe the batch plant hasn't been used in a couple of months, and so maybe there's kind of startup issues to go along with that. And so generally the rule of thumb is if you can pave during paving season, that's going to be best. That's going to kind of not guarantee quality, but it's going to give you a higher chance of having better quality. The three cost drivers when you're talking about asphalt are trucking distance from the batch plant to the project. And so if you're having to drive, let's say 20 minutes, 30 minutes, the truck's going to arrive on site. Maybe the outside of the asphalt got kind of cold and then started to harden. Your workers are going to have to remove that and take care of it before you can place asphalt. It's going to take a lot more time, and it's going to be way more expensive than if you have a batch plant that's 5 minutes away from the job site, where the truck can just pick it up, drive straight to the job site, place it, and there's no issues. Mixed design is a big consideration with asphalt, and so most state departments of transportation will have their own mixed design. It usually follows a standard called SuperPave, which is a highway standard that's typically used by departments of transportation. It's going to be a lot more expensive than just kind of standard asphalt. Most city projects will just use APWA, which is the American Public Works Association. It's still a good asphalt. It's not as high performing, but it's still pretty good. And then also quantity. Obviously, a 4-inch thick asphalt pavement is going to be a heck of a lot cheaper than a 10-inch thick asphalt pavement, which in most cases is probably overkill. The rule of thumb with asphalt is CYA, cover your asphalt. And so asphalt is only meant to last so long, let's say 50 years. But in order to get to those 50 years, you have to maintain the asphalt just like you would a car or a machine. And so the way to do that is to annually or every few years place crack seal or seal coat. Crack seal is a hot rubbery material that covers cracks as they form in asphalt, and then seal coat is a kind of a paint. It's still oil based, and it's going to cover the entire surface of the asphalt. Then you have slurry, which is depending on the type of slurry, it could be hot or cold applied, but it's usually hot applied. It's a really thin type of asphalt without the aggregates or much smaller aggregates, and it'll cover the asphalt, and it's gonna last a lot longer than cracked seal coat. It's also going to be a little bit more expensive. And then you just have an asphalt topping slab, and so you'll see this on a lot of city roads where it looks like if you look at the edge near a curb and gutter, you're going to see multiple layers of asphalt. That's because every 5 or 10 years they just put a topping slab on top of it. That's the most expensive option. It's also kind of the best because it adds to the thickness of your asphalt, and it kind of adds a new layer, if you will. And that's all I've got today. Thank you so much.